It's another episode of the Gary and Mark Show, and I'm Gary.
And I'm Mark.
And we're coming to you
for the fifth time.
Fifth time.
Or fourth time, yeah.
Not live, but we're live.
We are live. And where are we live, Gary?
We are at Dupont State Recreational Forest.
Here somewhere near
Western North Carolina.
Yeah, near Brevard and Hendersonville.
Yeah.
And they are having a festival, a forest festival, in honor of National Public Lands Day.
Yeah.
Fourth Saturday of every September. We're happy to be part of that today.
Yeah.
So you're probably hearing this not till like November or so, but it's a beautiful September day, actually.
It
Sunny,
is.
Nice little white clouds, and we are glad to be here. And we've had several guests on, but I don't think any of them have been famous. But this one's famous.
She's an author.
Multiple
books.
Multiple books, and got one coming out, too.
And what about this? I mean, talk about National Lands Day, and a lot of her books, well, they do, have to do with places to go. History of Lands, places to go. I met Danny probably 20 years ago.
Wow.
And then I remember her first book, Hiking the Carolinas, came out, I think, 2007. We had a book launch at the store. I think we had 150 people. And it was, during my tenure at Diamond Brand, of all the trail books we sold, it was our bestseller.
Wow.
Always was.
And is that still in print?
Amazingly, guys, it's still in print. Hiking the Carolina Mountains.
Well, let's bring her on. Let's officially introduce her then,
All
Gary.
right.
Okay. Who do we have here, Gary?
Well, Danielle Bernstein, but she goes by Danny.
Okay, Danny Bernstein.
Yeah, and she and her late husband Lenny, they section hiked the AT. I couldn't name you all the places they've been. She's done all the trails in the Smokies.
Wow.
Walked the mountains to see.
Wow.
And wrote a book about mountains to see too. So she is those feet have covered some ground.
And you know what? Even today at this festival, we saw her taking groups on a hike.
I did, and I find that very rewarding.
So where were you going today?
Today we were going to Wintergreen Falls.
Yeah.
And
how far is that from where we're sitting right now?
Well, the round trip hike was 3.5 miles.
Oh, wow. Longer.
And
leaves me out. Glad I asked.
I started with 12 people, but only 5 actually stuck it out for the whole thing.
You know what?
So there's a search party.
I was going to say, there's 7 of those are probably still lost.
Yeah.
This is 12,000 acres in
They
here.
turned around, and I made sure they knew where they were going.
You know what? You could tell me, you know where you're going, and I would say yes, just to be nice, and then I'd be lost. We were in the Tetons, actually in the National Forest next to Tetons, 2016, and I had a kid who had to turn back. So I let my other 3 leaders and the other kids go. I said, I'll take him back. And all of a sudden, I turned around thinking, oh, my gosh, there's a fork here and a trail here. We got back, but had to ask this bird club or something, which way is it back to Teton Science School?
But this is Dupont Forest.
It
is so well marked that unlike a national forest, you have to try hard to get lost.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, I don't see a single sign.
Well, but we're right here.
That's right. We're in the parking lot.
And Danny here, she did a follow-up to hiking the Carolina Mountains, hiking the Blue Ridge Heritage.
Hiking Blue Ridge Mountains.
Okay.
Which was different. It sounds the same, I know. But my first book was the Carolina Mountains, which included South Carolina.
Yeah.
And my second book, I went further east, much further east to the whole heritage area.
Yeah.
So,
and then you did a book
on the Mountains to Sea Trail.
Mountains to Sea Trail,
which you've hiked, right?
That I hiked, yes. And it wasn't. That one was not a guidebook. It was a narrative on what you'd find on the MST, the history of what you'd find, and just a flavor of what it's like to walk the MST day after day.
After day after
So
day.
for our listeners who, we only have 15 of them. They come from all over the world. Maybe 16. One guy was signing up right when he was standing here, Mr. Bird, okay, realtor in Hendersonville. So everybody probably knows when you say AT, it's the Appalachian Trail. And so tell us the
Mountains to
MST.
MST, Mountains to Sea Trail.
Tell us about that
is
trail.
North Carolina's own long-distance trail. It starts at Clingman's Dome in the Smokies, and that's on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. And it wiggles all the way down through western North Carolina, goes all the way up to almost Virginia. But remember, it's a North Carolina trail, so it doesn't go into Virginia. Comes back down through the Piedmont, does not go through any big cities, and goes around Raleigh into the Eastern Plains, which, by the way, was fascinating, and eventually ends up in the Outer Banks at Jockey's Ridge State Park.
So how many miles would that be? 500?
Well, 1,175 miles. But it keeps changing because the Friends of the Mountains to Sea Trail keeps changing it so that they can find more and more public land.
So right now, is it an actual trail? Or
Yes, it's not a theory. It is a trail. I finished the trail in 2013 or so, and I was number 21. There are now hundreds of people who have done the whole thing.
So, I mean...
now you got road walking. You get down.
Yes,
You
that's
got
what
some
I was-
road walking, but that's, to me, that's part of the fascination.
Yeah.
It was so interesting to see cotton fields, tobacco fields, in eastern North Carolina, east of Raleigh. Things that you would not see if you're zipping by in a car or even on a bike.
Yeah.
And, when people talk about, it's got road walking. Well, I did several Camino de Santiago, and it is 95% on roads.
Yeah.
And people are flocking to do this trail.
So when you were you in a car following it and writing your book, or were you actually hiking it?
No, I was hiking it.
So were you not what do you call it when someone goes with you with gear and food?
No,
and stuff?
no.
You were backpacking?
We were not backpacking. There is very little legal backpacking on the MST. The way I did it is I had a friend, and we had two cars, and we were leapfrogging day after day. In other words, we would put a car at the end, go back with the other car, walk, let's say 12, 15 miles, and then catch up to the next car, and so on. And leapfrogging is the way we did it. Some people do have trail angels that actually pick them up, but that's, I don't know where you're going to get a trail angel like that. And some people do backpack. You cannot backpack legally on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So every section was a different challenge.
So what year was that book written?
The book was published 2013, so I finished the trail 2011.
Can you still get the book now?
Oh, yeah.
So where do people can find your books?
Well, obviously online, but...
Online like at Amazon?
Like at Amazon, yes.
And also ArcadiaPublishing.com.
Arcadia, that's right. That is the publisher, and they would love to sell you books.
We'll put the name on their website so they can see it.
And locally, because we are in Brevard, locally you could get it at D.D. Bullwinkle, which is the outdoor store of the area. And they have all of my books. They're wonderful.
Wow. So how many books have you written altogether?
I've written 5 books. The one book that was a labor of love that is difficult to find, other than on Amazon, is Forests, Alligators, Battlefield, because that was a book that I wrote for the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service, and I visited every national park unit of the Southeast. By that I mean not just national parks, but battlefields and monuments and memorials, and I defined the South the way the National Park Service defines the South. So that meant I got to go to the Virgin Islands.
Well, there you go.
And to Puerto Rico.
There was someone sponsoring this book?
No, that was me.
So you were taking a gamble that you would be able to sell copies? And
A gamble, nobody makes money writing outdoor books, period. If you are John Gresham and you sell millions and they translate them in 20 languages and they make movies, yes.
But, outdoor recreation, looking at it here, is huge in all across the country, I'm sure. But here in western North Carolina, it's a major economic factor.
Yeah.
So people are probably clamoring for your books as long as they can find them on the bookshelf.
Well, they can find them.
Does REI have any?
REI has all of my books. That's right. And like Gary said, Hiking the Carolina Mountains is still a bestseller. It's amazing. The first two books were published by literally a mom and pop shop called Milestone Press, but they were traditional publishers.
Actually, Jim Parham.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jim Parham worked at Falling Creek.
Oh, I did not know that. But
Jim
I remember
Parham
his books.
is the guy who gets Steve Longnecker his honey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they published the first two books.
Great format. I love that format. Yeah.
Thank you. That's them. And
Yeah.
then about 4 years ago, they retired, and they sold everything. They sold Milestone Press
Wow.
to University of Georgia Press.
Really?
Yeah.
And so University of Georgia is still publishing them.
Yeah.
So your first one was which one?
Hiking the Carolina Mountains.
Okay, so on that book, you've been hiking for years before that. You just
Yes.
decided at some point I need to write all this
Yes.
up, but you were collecting all your notes all along.
Yes. I wouldn't say collecting notes, but I certainly was learning because from the time we got here, we went with Carolina Mountain Club. And so we learned a lot of trails. And I was here at Dupont, I remember, in 2001, 2002, wondering about all of these buildings that I saw and what the story was about them.
And
that leads into we got Danny's book about the history of Dupont, which is that your most recent?
That is the most
Yeah.
recent book, and it was published by the History Press, by Arcadia.
Yeah.
History Press is owned by Arcadia. It was published in September 2020, exactly a year ago. Not the best time to publish a book in the middle of COVID, but through the power of Zoom, I did a lot of book events at libraries and bookshops.
Oh.
History, Western North Carolina Historical Association. And now, if all goes well, cross your fingers, guys, next month, well, October, I'm going to be at the Transylvania County Library.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Live, Danny.
all right, not alive.
You
but
know,
live.
they've had some. I remember Frank DeFord came there.
Really,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
was Frank DeFord?
Oh, we famous
Sports writer.
He's dead now. Oh, a very wonderful ways known for sports writing, but he's a really good writer. And I'm like Frank DeFord at the Trans. That was within a year or two of his death, I think.
Yeah, and, he went to Gilman where.
That's right,
Chris
in
Petersman.
Baltimore. Yeah, well, so Danny here, I'm going to mention now, she's now working on a book, The History of the Carolina Mountain Club.
That's right, and it's going to be how many years old? Coming
It's
up?
going to be 100 years old in 2023, and we predate the Appalachian Trail Conservancy.
Wow.
We predate every hiking club in the South.
Yeah.
And we CMC built most of the AT in the South. But, I'm still talking about Dupont Forest, and I still come back here because I love it.
Yeah. You had trails in DuPont in that first year you're hiking the Carolina Mountains.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And back when this first became,
A
a
forest.
place you could come hike, there was this free map, but it's almost like the map was the size of a postage stamp.
I've seen those.
And you have 80 miles of trail. It was hard to read. And yeah, I do remember the trails you described in here. Again, I just like that format that Milestone Press used.
Yeah, it always had some history, and that's what fascinated me about this area. Every trail has a story.
Yep.
And it's if you work at it, it's not that difficult to find the story. And DuPont Forest, the history is still being created. DuPont Company is not out of here. They keep cleaning up the water.
Yeah.
And so even though they donated the last piece of land to the state, you can't go there because they or their subsidiaries are still cleaning up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear they're cleaning up.
Yeah. I did look at DuPont, it was initially early 1800, like 1803. French money, French machinery come to Wilmington and start to make gunpowder.
That's right. They started with gunpowder.
Really?
And just like our immigrants now, the Dupont family, though they were rich, had to leave France because of regime change.
Yeah.
They had to leave. They were aligned with the king when the French Revolution came.
Yeah.
She knows her history. Gary's a historian too, So.
Well, I don't call myself a historian. I don't have any academic credentials for
Neither
history.
does Gary, but he knows his history.
And so they had to leave France, came to the United States, and one of the DuPont, quote, kids, E.I. DuPont, started making gunpowder. And they made gunpowder, or their equivalent, until certainly after World War II.
Well, I was reading that they estimate half of the gunpowder used by the Union Army
Yes.
in the Civil War was made at that plant.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep that on the down low down here in the South.
Yes, of course. People, we have listeners.
Well,
from both sides, so.
depending on what you read,
Yeah.
they sold gunpowder to both sides.
Hey. Yeah.
So
well,
Right.
they were in business.
yeah.
That's right.
But then of course they diversified, and they came here looking for the company looking for clean air and water to make silicon chips in the 1950s.
Amazing. So,
and that road they put in, I always knew it. I first drove it 50 years ago. It was always called the DuPont Road.
Yes.
If you were going up to Cedar Mountain, if I was going to go to Camp Irox,
that's what they call
you'd come up there, go up the DuPont Road.
That's not 276, you mean?
DuPont, it's Staten Road.
Right.
No,
okay.
it's not 276.
Okay, yeah, so it's a different road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the one that
It
goes.
joins into
Okay.
another road that
Yeah.
gets,
Yeah.
So, are you a member of this? Your newest book's going to be about the Carolina Mountain
Say that
Club.
again?
Your newest book's going to be about the Carolina.
I'm working on it now as we speak.
Right. And are you a member?
Of Carolina Mountain
Right.
Club? Oh, yeah.
Because, last time I heard of them, like, average age was like 85 or something.
Well, I don't know where you get your data, Mark.
From Gary. Because he said he wanted to join and he was too young. And he's 71 or something like that.
72.
72.
No, we are most hiking clubs because I was a member of the Appalachian Mountain Club in New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Most hiking clubs are people 40 to 50 and older. Younger people who are athletic don't hike.
She was pointing to me when she said athletic, but she did not mean me. You just pointed this way because
at
I'm
different
glad we're not on
stages
video,
of your
right?
life, you do different sports. So people here who are in their 20s and 30s are usually mountain biking, and then later on they decide to hike, and many join a club. That's how I learned the area. How else do you learn an area other than with people that have been here before you?
So you were a founding member
Of what?
Carolina Mountain Club.
No, they started in 1923.
Well,
You think?
you tell me she was one of the first members, Gary?
I know I'm old, but I'm not that old.
I'm not sure whose leg you're pulling here.
Did you know Al Moore? Put it that way.
Al Moore, no.
No, she's not. She's very young then. Okay. Wasn't Al Moore part of that? Didn't he lead hikes with them or something?
No, Al,
Charlie
no.
Moore?
Well, Charlie Moore owned some property, Moore Funeral Home.
No.
In Brevard, he owned some property they deeded to Pisgah that is the connector. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. What's the
Connected to the Outlobe Trail?
that it will get you? I'm trying to think what that real steep trail is. Relatively new one out of Brevard. You can walk out of Brevard and then walk into Pisgah Forest. I can't think of
Okay,
the.
well,
it's mainly mountain bikes.
Without a map, it is hard to tell which.
But a lot of that property was, I think, property Charlie Moore owned.
Nothing to do with CMC.
Right.
Try again.
All right, so CMC, Carolina Mountain Club, it's still very active.
Very active, and we not only hike, we have 4 hikes a week, every week year round.
And do you lead some?
Of course. And we also have a huge trail maintenance organization.
And a bunch of them today are up at Max Patch.
That's right. For National Public Lands Day.
That's right.
And then next month they'll be at Big Bald.
And but that is kind of the Saturday crew.
Yeah.
For people who punch a clock during the week. But so we have a group that goes out every weekday.
Yeah.
A Monday group, a Tuesday group, etc. Now, most individuals don't go out 5 days a week, but a crew goes out because we maintain 400 miles of trail. We maintain about 90 miles of the AT, 140 miles of the MST, and various other trails in Pisgah.
Wow. So who's the president of the club?
Her name is Debbie Jones. It's a regular organization. We vote on president every 2 years. But the one we have now is Debbie. Her name is Debbie Jones.
So you've hiked the whole AT?
I've hiked the whole AT, yep.
Do you remember Roan Mountain section?
Of course. Roan Mountain is here in this area. Right. Yes, of course.
So my wife and I had a summer camp at kind of the base of Roan Mountain in Mitchell County, North Carolina.
Oh, really? What was the name of it?
Well, I wasn't there for 15 years. Trail Ridge Mountain Camp. It was in Beuladine. So the Pisgah Forest bordered our property to the north, west, and east of us. And if you were to walk behind our property, but you talk about steep, you'd get to the 18 about 2,000 feet. And we had a American Youth Hostel at our camp, so we'd have hikers drop down for that. Right. But there was the old, I can't remember, the Greasy Gap shelter. So there was a Greasy Creek campsite, and then there was a shelter on Iron Mountain, not Iron Mountain, Hughes Gap.
Right.
Area.
Well,
I can't remember the name of any of these.
We finished the AT in 1998, so there's no way I'm going to remember every mile of it.
Right. But we would have moved out by then, but just barely. How about that? Someone else had to camp then, by the way.
Right.
Well, so this book, Dupont Forest: A History, it's out now. Is that right?
It's out now. It came out last year. It can be gotten every place, and online, of course, REI. And it tells the story of this piece of land from the time of the American Revolution, the settlers that came here after the Revolution, all the way to the land being consolidated, to Dupont Company coming, Dupont Company leaving, and it becoming a recreational forest. And speaking of summer camps, there was a summer camp.
Oh, yeah.
There was a summer camp here.
Really?
Summit camps.
The summit camps.
For how?
At
When
the airport. I'll think of the guy's name tomorrow. Who had that?
Ben Cart was his name.
Oh, I know that name.
Well,
that was the guy who started the camp. He was what I call a serial entrepreneur. He was in another business, came here, started a camp in the late 60s. He and his crew, the ones who built Lake Julia.
Yeah, named after his wife.
His first wife.
Yeah.
She would know.
Yeah.
And
he built the airport, didn't he?
The airstrip. Yeah. I wouldn't call it an airport, but the airstrip.
Is that still there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can hike it.
Yeah.
And I lead a hike that starts from Fawn Lake, which actually I'm going to lead next month for Friends of Dupont, and talks about the history of both the summit camps and Dupont. But there's a lot of artifacts from the summer camp. And then in the late 80s, he was on to his third wife.
Yeah.
And he decided he was done with camps. So he ended up selling the land to DuPont.
Okay. I thought DuPont owned the land and he leased him a space for him. He owned land.
He bought the land.
Summit camps.
Summit camps. There was a girls' camp. There was a boys' camp. And I have met and talked to people in their 60s, 70s who were campers there and loved it. It was the best time of their lives.
Well, that's where Gary and I met at a summer camp.
That's true.
50 years plus a month or two.
Yeah.
Now, what camp did you meet at?
Camp Mundaman down
Oh,
at
okay.
Tuxedo.
That's right. Now, as you know, I don't have to tell you guys, this area is full of summer camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer camps being just one of them.
And my first time on the Dupont Road, taking some boys from our camp up to Camp High Rocks in Cedar Mountain to play tennis.
So you came through this
And
way.
see, High Rocks, that property was logged by Frank Bell to get the lumber to build Camp Green Cove.
Goodness.
And then he sold that property to Sumner and Jane Williams, and they started High Rocks. Yeah, it's all
All connected somehow.
connected.
Well-
Sky Valley was a camp.
Well, it's nice to be here at this festival and meet someone famous.
Yeah,
We didn't. We have Pete Landry wasn't famous, but we've got a famous person here. So we want to thank you, Danny, for being on this show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You guys were so much fun.
And hold it, we're not done with you yet, though.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, because you don't know this, but here in episode 50, this is our 50th episode.
Oh,
Gary and I are founders of a famous university.
Yes, we are.
Tell her about the university, Gary.
The Gary and Mark Podcasting University.
The only university in the world where you can enroll and graduate in the same day,
The same day,
sometimes the same hours,
same hour, and incur no debt.
and incur no debt.
And get a master's, a BA or a BS.
Yes.
It's a lot. It's a
Degree.
lot of BS in podcasting.
So we are going to make Danny Bernstein our latest graduate.
Yes.
thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so not only do you get to be a graduate, you get an official diploma. You'll have to fill in your own name. Okay? Because we didn't know you were going to be on today.
Yeah.
But we will have you on our website and your name listed, the
Yes.
honor of extra honor graduates up
Yeah,
there.
and she might even become a member of the faculty.
You know what? We need someone in charge of writing books on hiking the trails.
There you go.
And we don't have many trails. You know what? She could develop the trails on our campus.
In Watershed.
She could. You would be interested in that?
Well, absolutely.
We got land, looks kind of like that, and used to be like a car lot on one time, but you could probably put in about a half-mile trail for us, don't you think?
Well, I think so. That's something else I could move on to, right?
There you go.
You could. Well, let's thank our sponsors.
All
Gary.
right, the Big Whizz Pocket Buddy,
Rabbit Island. Okay. Saluda Outfitters, home of, what is the home of, Gary?
Big Eddy's Green River Tap Room.
Pretty close. L.J. Myers and his White Dove releases.
And our newest sponsor,
Athletic
Athletic Brewing.
maker of non-alcoholic beverages, and
Yeah.
also Iron Key Brewing in Columbus, North Carolina. So we want to thank again Danny Bernstein, famous
Thank you,
author
Danny.
and trail hiker
Yeah.
here. Done them all for being here. I am Mark.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Danny. Thank
and that's
you.
Dan.
Danny.
Gary and Mark Show. Signing off. See you soon.